All right, so today we're diving deep into something that seems, well, kind of simple at first glance, but gets really interesting the further down the rabbit hole you go. We're talking about mercy.
And it's a concept that, might seem pretty straightforward, but when you look at it, especially through a spiritual lens, I guess you could say, there are these whole layers of meaning that we don't always consider.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's actually what got me so fascinated by these teachings from Enoch. He doesn't just talk about mercy as like just a feeling you have, right? He talks about it as this active force, even going as far as describing it as having a, get this, a mathematical and geometrical configuration.
It's that structure of mercy that always gets me. The idea that it has a form. It really resonates with some of the stuff we're discovering now about energy, even consciousness itself. Like, take the concept of morphic fields, for example. It suggests that there's this energetic structure, kind of like a blueprint, within and around us, and it shapes our reality. What Enoch seems to be pointing to is how mercy actually interacts with these fields, almost like it activates them as we grow spiritually.
So hold on, just to be clear, it's less about mercy being this vague idea and more about it having a real tangible impact, even influencing the energy around us.
Precisely. You got it. And the fact that he connects it to these geometric forms, the star tetrahedron, the toroid, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It gets pretty complex, but it really drives home this point, that there's a deeper level of organization to mercy than we often realize.
Makes you think, right? Like back in Enoch's time, maybe even though they didn't have all the technology we have now, maybe mercy was just more commonplace, you know? More
Right.
part of everyday life. I mean, he even talks about this difference between then and now.
Yeah, and what's interesting? He kind of suggests that maybe the lack of all the distractions we have now, it might have allowed people to be more in tune with their intuition, that inner voice that guides us toward compassion. Maybe it was just louder back then.
It's weird, right? Like all this stuff that's supposed to be connecting us, it's kind of made us more disconnected from those core parts of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And, that disconnect, maybe that's why it seems like we're in this big rediscovering phase right now. Like all these spiritual principles, these truths about ourselves and the universe, they've always been there, but maybe they were forgotten, overshadowed for a while.
Almost like we're collectively remembering something that's always been a part of us. That's actually a really good way to put it.
Exactly. Right. And this leads us to another fascinating concept Enoch talks about, the connection between mercy, compassion, and something he calls divine desire. He puts it into this really simple but powerful equation. Compassion plus divine desire equals mercy.
I like the equation, but I think we need to break that down a bit, don't you think? I mean, what exactly is divine desire? What does that even mean, and how does it fit into all of this?
Think of it this way. Divine desire is that deep, like soul-deep longing within us. The yearning to be one with the divine, the source. It's the force that drives us towards spiritual awakening. It's that inner compass that wants to guide us back to a state of wholeness.
So not about, like, material possessions then. Not what we typically think of when we think of the word
Oh, no,
desire.
no, no, not at all. It goes way beyond what our egos want. It's about transcending all those limitations we put on ourselves and connecting with our true nature, the part of us that is, at its core, pure love and light.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So let me see if I've got this right. When we combine that deep yearning, that divine desire with, like, genuine compassion for others, that's when we get true mercy.
Yes, exactly. You've got it. And that's what makes this concept of mercy so powerful. It's bigger than just, doing nice things for other people. It's actually a transformative force. It has the potential to literally change the world around us.
Now that makes you think, doesn't it? It makes me think about all those stories of like Jesus healing the sick and all that. And there's this one story that always kind of stuck with me where he's healing a bunch of people, right? But he doesn't heal everyone who's there. I always wondered, if he has the power to heal everyone, why not do it? It never really made sense to me.
That's a question a lot of people have, and Enoch's teachings actually provide a really interesting perspective on that. It's not that mercy was being withheld from some people, you see. It's more about readiness and free will playing a crucial role in all of this.
So you're saying that the ability to be healed or maybe to experience mercy in general, it depends on us too.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's always there, always available, but we have to choose to be open to it, to receiving it.
So it's like mercy is always there, kind of like a radio signal or something. It's always broadcasting, but we need to have the right tuner to pick it up. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. You got it. It's about being on the right frequency, so to speak.
Hmm.
It's like, think about it. Our choices, our willingness to change,
Mhm.
those aha moments where we let go of old beliefs,
Mm.
all that stuff influences how open we are to experiencing mercy. And you know what's really interesting is that this idea of, being open to mercy, it's not just about individual experiences. I mean,
Yeah.
can mercy even act on like a larger scale? You know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, like, not just about how one person experiences mercy, but maybe how it plays out in the world, even on a grander level.
Exactly. And Enoch actually gives this really cool example. He talks about a group called the Iitas who exemplify mercy in action, but on this really big, like, collective scale.
The Iitas, that's a new one. Who are they?
So they were, and maybe still are, this group that was super dedicated to, spiritual service, constantly working behind the scenes to help humanity evolve. They're like the ultimate helpers.
Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. But what were they actually doing? How does their work connect back to this idea of mercy?
Well, Enoch describes their work as, get this, fracturing the game.
Fracturing the game. Okay, now you have to explain that one. I have no idea what that means.
Okay, so picture this. Imagine life is like a game, right? But this game has all these rigid rules and limitations that keep us stuck. It's like we're going through the motions, stuck in these repetitive cycles, and we can't seem to break free.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Life can definitely feel like that sometimes. So, what do the Hittas do? How do they fracture the game, like you said?
They use their intention, their compassion, all fueled by this deep well of mercy, and they essentially disrupt those patterns. They shake things up, challenge the beliefs and structures that keep us from growing, from reaching our full potential.
Wow, so they're kind of like spiritual rebels. Like they see the game, see how it's rigged, and they're trying to change the rules.
Exactly. They're like, hey, this isn't working. Let's shake things up a bit. They're shining a light on our blind spots, helping us break free from all those limitations we put on ourselves.
That's actually pretty awesome. But if they were so influential, how come we don't hear more about them? I mean, if they were doing all this stuff behind the scenes, you'd think their impact would be more obvious, wouldn't you?
And that's where the fracturing the game part gets really interesting. You
Hmm.
see, a lot of their work happens on a level that's not always easy to see. It transcends our everyday perception, you know what I mean? They're working with energy, with consciousness itself, on a level that's not bound by our normal understanding of time and space.
So it's more about shifting the underlying energy, the foundation of things, rather than like taking some big physical action that everyone sees.
Exactly. You can see that. Think of that like it's like they're subtly shifting the course of a river rather than trying to, stop it with a dam or something. It's a much more subtle, pervasive kind of influence.
Their approach is really interesting, but it still seems kind of, I don't know, abstract, maybe. I mean, how can we, in our everyday lives, tap into that kind of transformative power? What can we do,
Uh-huh.
practically speaking, to cultivate that same kind of mercy-driven action?
That is the million-dollar question, right? And Enoch gives us this really powerful clue when he says that the very first act of mercy is seeing our own divinity.
Oh, wow. He's talking about that idea of recognizing the divine spark within ourselves, like seeing ourselves as inherently worthy, as beings of light, all that.
Exactly. You got it. Until we recognize that, embrace that part of ourselves, that divine essence within each of us, it's hard to truly extend that same mercy outward. It has to start with us.
It's like we have to really love ourselves, all of it, the good, the bad, the messy stuff, and recognize that even in all of that, that's where the divine exists
Yeah.
within us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like this radical act of self-acceptance. And it's only from that place of really truly accepting ourselves, that we can really start to see that same spark, that same divinity in everyone else too.
It's like once you see it in yourself, you can't unsee it in others. It changes how you approach everything.
Right. It's like you're approaching every interaction, every situation with a deeper level of understanding, a deeper well of empathy, because you're not coming from that place of judgment or separation anymore.
This whole conversation, it's really got me thinking, like mercy, it's not about trying to be this perfect, compassionate being. It's more about, I don't know, letting go of those judgments about ourselves, about other people, seeing the world through a different lens.
And it's about recognizing that we're all just figuring it out as we go. We've all got our own stories, our own struggles. It's about connection, recognizing that we're all in this together. And when we can do that, that's when real transformation can happen.
We talked about it earlier, but it's like Enoch said, mercy's not some far-off concept. It's not some unattainable ideal. It's a force. And we have the power to choose it, to cultivate it.
Right. And that choice, that
Yeah.
decision to approach everything with a little bit more mercy, it has this ripple effect.
Yeah.
It can create these huge waves of transformation that we can't even begin to imagine.
It's like this power we all have inside of us. It's the power to choose compassion over judgment,
Yeah.
forgiveness over resentment,
Yeah.
love over fear. And in a world that often feels so, I don't know, so divided, so chaotic, it feels like that power, that choice is more important now than ever.
You said it. So for everyone listening out there, think about it.
Yeah.
How can you, in your own life, even in some small way, bring a little bit more of that mercy into the world? How can you take that compassion that you're cultivating for yourself and extend it outwards to others?
Because ultimately, it's not just about understanding mercy, is it? It's about living it, allowing it to transform not just our own lives, but the world around us. And on that note, that feels like a good place to wrap up our deep dive into this really fascinating topic.
It really does. Until next time, everyone, keep those conversations going.